This is the Wheel of Time Spoilers podcast.
Yeah, today we are doing a doubleheader of chapter coverage because
the second chapter barely counts as a chapter.
The first chapter barely counts as a chapter.
Okay. Well, I mean, just because it's a Gawyn chapter doesn't mean you can completely dismiss it.
Yes, it does.
All right. In order to keep this chapter entertaining, I'm going to use every opportunity to support my Gawyn was under compulsion during the rebellion theory. Because otherwise, I'm just not going to care about this chapter enough. Because this is Gawyn. This is the beginning of Gawyn's journey, right? Sanderson has started us on several characters' journeys at this point. He is creating a journey for Gawyn to go through these 3 books, and this is the beginning of it.
Yep. And so, yeah, as you can tell, we're very excited about what we're going to cover today. And so we're going to do 2 chapters in an effort to make this fun.
I mean, just, fan favorites, Cadsuane and Gawyn, the 2 favorite characters that everybody on the internet loves.
Such divisive characters. But see, we're not the kind of people who court controversy and clickbait. So we're taking chapters that could be really good for stirring the pot and getting engagement. And we're just sort of tiptoeing around it ew.
Mm-hmm.
Ew.
Although I gotta say, based on live attendance, maybe we should do terrible chapters more often. People are out in droves.
Wow. You're right. That is kind of a crowd. Hello. So good to see so many faces.
Hello,
Hi.
everybody. Thank you for joining us. Well, yeah, I guess I'm reading us in, aren't I?
Yep. Gawyn is definitely your cross to bear.
Thank you. Do I do them? Do I just hold my nose so it's just the most nasally voice I can do while I'm going for it, or do I just really go whiny?
You're trying to make him sympathetic with your theory, and I will be fighting with you about it at the end. I will let you make your case, and then at the end, I will refute the whole thing point for point. So do your best to make him sympathetic by not making him whiny.
Okay, fair enough. So this is chapter 13, an offer and a departure. And this is the icon was the Heron Mark blade.
Right.
Because they talk about him being a sword master through a big chunk of this.
It's a big sword fighty chapter.
It's a big sword fighty chapter. There's a lot of sword forms in this chapter. Gawyn stood, sword at the ready, facing down 2 warders. The barn let in slots of light, air sparkling with dust and bits of straw kicked up from the fighting. Gawyn backed slowly across the packed dirt floor, passing through patches of light. The air was warm on his skin. Trickles of sweat ran down from his temples, but his grip was firm as the 2 warders advanced on him. The one in front was Sleet, a limber, long-armed man with rough-hewn features. In the barn's uneven light, his face looked like an unfinished work one might find in a sculptor's workshop, with long shadows across his eyes, his chin divided by a cleft, his nose crooked from being broken and not healed. He wore long hair and black sideburns. Hattori had been quite pleased when her warder had finally arrived at Dorlan. She'd lost him at Dumai's Wells, and his story was the sort gleemen and bards sang about. Sleet had lain wounded for hours before deliriously managing to grab his horse's reins and pull himself into the saddle. It had loyally carried him near unconscious for hours before arriving at a nearby village. The villagers there had been tempered to sell Sleet to a local band of bandits. Their leader had visited earlier, promising them safety as a reward for revealing any refugees from the nearby battle. However, the mayor's daughter had argued for Sleet's life, convincing them that the bandits must be dark friends if they were seeking wounded warders. The villagers had chosen to hide Sleet instead, and the girl had nursed him to safety. So, basically putting Sleet up there on a pedestal for everybody.
It was the marrow of stories and legends.
Right. Which fade to myth. He is definitely, Sleet is, in a lot of ways, I feel like they're trying to hold him up as a paragon of a warder.
He's another Lan. He's Lan-esque.
Yeah.
He's an Aragorn. Right. He's just yet another, and that's the thing and Gawyn definitely has a crush on Sleet because the description goes on for paragraphs about how he's noble and modest and his chin is all chiseled and he's not he's not cute like other boys, but there's just something about him. Like Gawyn has such a fucking crush on this man, like in so many ways. But he really is an archetypal warder. This is Sanderson putting in his own twist on the archetypal warder type, which is fine because I think we needed more of those. I think we needed less of Lan being a singular archetype, like, or a singular example. We needed more examples of Lan is amazing because look at how incredible all these other guys are, right? We were just told Lan is amazing. We haven't really seen warders who are as badass as Lan on the surface, at a surface glance, to then contrast him to.
But I do think on some level, Lan is the most badass of the badasses, right? Like,
exactly.
He's not like average warder. He's the best of the best.
Exactly. And we never saw an average warder. But the implication has always been that the average warder is still as cool as Lan to a layperson, right? You have to like see them in action for a while to like understand the nuances. Instead, we just saw Lan and then the concept of a warder sort of in the background, right? I wanted to see more warders being incredible. And
Fair.
Sanderson is like, well, here's a speed run version of that in one quick little self-contained vignette short story, which is just such a like children's fairy tale. And I think it's charming.
It is charming. And I do like the way he's giving him backstory, right? A good backstory on a side character, right? It makes him much more real for the bits that follow, right? I care more about Sleet in this chapter than I do about Gawyn.
Literally, yes. I'm so invested in like who this guy is, who his Aes Sedai is. Why did he leave this woman that like had feelings for him? How is he choosing to let Gawyn go? The fact that Sleet thinks really deeply about the conflict in the tower, I care about his opinion more than I care about Gawyn's opinion on this plot that I care so much about, right? Yeah. Totally. He's a good character.
And honestly, I want to know more about Hattori as well. His Aes Sedai. This Aes Sedai, who, I mean, obviously must be fairly weak in the power, right? Because nobody cares about her opinion. We get that later where, like, you put it together that she must... Why does no one listen to her? Well, she
kind
must
of
be low
Daigyon-esque.
Yeah, exactly. So she just basically gets to follow along and do whatever she wants. And she kind of got tricked into Doom Eyes Wells. That feels a little apologistic to me, but whatever.
Not tricked, just she had her blinders on for her sake of her own survival. Like she was not committed to the cause, capital C, the way that, you know, the Reds in charge were. She was just like, ooh, if I hide in these coattails in this wake, I can move myself and position myself in a different location. And, you know. Oh,
y'all leaving the tower? I'm coming.
Exactly,
where are you going?
Exactly. Like, so where are we going? Like after the train has already pulled out? Like it wasn't a good call, but like it's a different call than a lot of the other Aes Sedai. And yeah, you don't, again, hear about a lot of Aes Sedai like that. But because of Sleet, I'm like, I want to know about Hattori. I want Hattori to like go to Andor and like have a whole like being in Andor. Like, honestly, Gawyn, please just let Hattori bond you and like get out. Just like go away.
But as far as I can tell, the only details we have about them are the stuff we already know, that they were at Doom Eyes Wells, they escaped, they've kind of accompanied the group, right? But just as this group, we know that who they've been with this whole time. But other than that, you know, they were side characters until Sanderson came forward and took those names and did something with them in this chapter.
Right. Hattori was mentioned before, but Sleet wasn't, I think.
Yeah, and Hattori is, you know, so we know who, and obviously, like, Sleet was with her during those moments, right?
Implied.
So
yeah,
it's implied.
Do we know how if they die in the last battle?
No, not that I. Let me do a quick Google just to make sure.
Okay, just presumed fought on the correct side and lived. ...
Hattori Hanzo is who I get when I. That is not who I am looking for. No, yeah, that's it.
Yeah, so it's a nice little vignette short story, but it doesn't have to be in this world per se. It's just a nice vignette short story. It doesn't actually connect to the larger plot beyond showing that Gawyn is a bisexual disaster.
I have to correct you. So, Sleet is on guard duty at the field of Marilor and escorts Llewellyn shipless and Bail Domon to Nynaeve's tent. He is seen leading the White Tower forces reinforcing Gawyn on the Kandori front.
Oh. Well, that's nice. He actually does get to have a thing to do in the last battle. That's awesome.
Yeah, and he gets to sort of rejoin Gawyn and support him.
I like that he gets to be present for some characters meeting, Llewellyn and Egwene, and then also gets to circle back with Gawyn. That's actually a lot of loose ends to get to tie up with one briefly introduced character. Good job, Sanderson. You really nailed this whole Sleet assignment. You got that one right.
You got that one right, yeah. God, it almost feels like it's based on some old anime, right? Like, I want this to be the plot of an anime. Just the way he's described with the chops and everything feels like a 70s anime description.
Yeah, totally.
And just what I know about Sanderson is so many of his books are really just based in anime. Like, if you read about what he's doing, right? Like, he builds these worlds that, like, if you actually visualize what he's doing, you're like, oh, he's writing anime. Like, they have big swords, they jump really high because the gravity's lower, they're all Asian looking. Like,
I'm not a super visual reader, and I have never had such vivid and clear pictures in my mind of how fights looked as when I was reading Sanderson. Like, wow, I am not used to having a literal video going in my head of a fight, and it looks really anime. Like, my own imagination, which is normally bad at this, is producing an anime film in my head. Like, wow, Sanderson, you are evocative in this medium.
So that's why every once in a while I'm reading through, I'm like, I know, and he admits, like, that is a source of inspiration for him, right? Like, Final Fantasy and some other.
Yeah, not a critique, just like an observation. Like, this is, the fingerprints are all over it. Like, wow.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Next line I really thought was interesting was, Gawyn respected the ones you had killed. Like, and there's a whole line about respecting people who, like, die for the cause and stuff like that, which just, I don't know. Little foreshadowing there, maybe?
The line I highlighted in that paragraph was, while Aes Sedai manipulated the world and monsters like Althor got the glory, men like Sleet quietly did the work of heroes each and every day. That was the line that stood out to me, because that was the kind of self-aggrandizing, whiny-ass, pathetic attitude that
caused by compulsion.
I see that attitude in characters and people I don't like. That's a level of, there's this just like this finger pointing, anyone but me, I'm not the problem, you're the problem, everyone else is the problem. I don't like it. That attitude of, like, there's these people who are manipulative and these other people who are heroes, and no one recognizes the heroes, but I recognize the heroes. That I recognize that as being deeply toxic in a lot of different contexts. And yeah, Gawyn, I don't agree with you. That way of looking at the world is inherently toxic, I think, and is just a big fat red flag to stop and unpack what's happening.
Here's the thing, though. Aes Sedai are the rich billionaires who are manipulating the world.
There is a extra magical component that makes it more true in his analysis, but the whole, like, monsters like Althor, I'm like,
that's
on
compulsion.
What basis? Yeah, okay. Sure. That,
so, I mean,
there's
again,
your compulsion evidence.
This is hit number one, right? Like, the idea that he has been compelled to support the Emerald Seat and hate Althor explains so many of his behaviors and irrationalities.
I mean, this is toxic brainworms. When I see people in the real world having this kind of logic in their analysis of why things are the way they are, I think they have brainworms. So he's got brainworms. Are they magic brainworms?
Yeah, that's what I'm going for. That's all I'm saying.
It's really funny. He looks up to Galad. He's like, I just wanted to be like Galad someday. And I'm like, dude, Galad would never have put himself in this level of fuckery. And he's a white cloak.
Right.
Like,
he would have kept his loyalties much more clear. You have muddied them fiercely.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah. So Zula's asking for you to clarify who you think compelled Gawyn.
Okay, so this is back during the split of the tower, right? That it was sudden, and the overthrow of Suan was, of course, set up by Elida at the encouragement of Danelle, or aka Masana, sorry. So Masana is in the White Tower, basically fomenting rebellion with Elida. As part of that, she goes down and says, I'm going to create two different forces. I need the warders to be occupied, so I'm going to basically encourage the younglings to fight against who can I neutralize the warders with? The apprentices. So I'm going to encourage them to fight up against the warders. They'll probably get wiped out or whatever. It's not important.
Right, yeah, the two forces will neutralize and distract each other.
Right.
That's the point.
And so then this compulsion, right, as we've seen with all the other Trachans, right? That's also a trend.
No, one other Trachand. We went over this. Elaine never threw off her compulsion.
No, but they all got compelled.
Yes.
Is what I'm saying.
Yeah. It's like head injuries. Yeah. Actually, less like head injuries. Oh, and then food just appears through the wall. There's just an arm that just delivers food.
I love this new house. It's really, really quite nice.
Quite the modern appliance. And a
tea.
Drink. Nice.
Well, thank you.
Oh, but the arm demands payment.
The arm does demand payment. I cannot hold on to all the things I currently have. So where were we? What were we? Yeah, warders are getting attacked by the students. That then creates this sort of group of, and if you can't compel all of them, like that's too busy. So you at least compel their leader, right, Gawyn, to help fight against the warders. And that's why he can't leave. That's why he's stuck. There's a lot of, there's a bunch of it in this chapter, right? I'll go over his conflicts that he's struggling with. But I feel like it's the same kind of conflict that we see in his mother when she's struggling to get away from Gabriel.
So that is the theory. That is the basis of the theory, and this chapter includes most of the textual evidence that you have for the theory. So we are giving it its airtime. I will shred it to death at the end.
Mm-hmm. No, I mean, and I am not in any way dying on this hill. I just like the theory. What it is when people bring up he got whacked on the head by Matt and that gave him a concussion and that's why he acts the way he does theory. I go, you know what? That's fun. That's dandy, and he got ignored, right? He was lying on the ground, and, all the Aes Sedai flocked to Galad because he's all pretty, and so his head injury got untreated, which is why he has, permanent brain damage. Pretty fun, right? But, not at all. Just...
Elaine gets worse head traumas, and no one says that about her, so...
Right, exactly. She gets her skull cracked, although Nynaeve does heal her afterwards, so...
But still, she has... a long time before she gets healed. So, if we're going with Gawyn had a brain problem, why not take it to the next step and make it magic?
Right. If you're already taking his free will away, right? If that's something that's already being removed from the equation by that theory, then I'm going to go with a theory that I like better, I think has more contextual evidence, and frankly, just, makes a little more sense.
And the thing I will say as supporting evidence is that Masana specifically was involved in creating schools and organizations of children who were specifically agents of chaos and betrayal and were her eyes and ears and spies and agents of chaos. Masana's children, I read this in some supplemental material, they were called Masana's children after the 13 Forsaken were sealed away. Masana's children, all of her students
Masana's
from the
younglings?
different schools, all of those were a problem for basically the duration of the breaking. There were these kids, these feral bands of kids running around who were essentially dark friends who had been trained to be that way by Masana and Masana's immediate minions. And it was a very specific part of what made the breaking so terrible for a lot of people was because Masana's children, capital letters, were running around. So I love the idea that she has pulled out that old trick and gone for the children, the students, and weaponized the students against their teachers. It fits Masana as a Forsaken specifically, and I really like that as a loose end getting tied in.
That's what I'm saying, yeah.
Not truly a loose end, but there's a little bit of give there.
Mm-hmm. The evidence is stacking up, that's all I'm saying. The why not?
It's the
kind
why
of
not
category.
Yeah.
It's the why not. Feel free to shred it. Why that's not happening. And I understand people really want Gawyn to be a bad guy, right? They want to blame him for his actions, and they feel like this is robbing him of that freedom to make bad decisions.
Yeah, it's his agency, but it is a fun theory, and because this is the chapter with so much of that.
Right.
Content. This is the time. This is the time to unfold it and let it have its air before we, all collectively pummel it and put it back in the dark corner where it belongs.
All right, moving on in the chapter. I like the note where warders remember warders, right? Like, even if they're not remembered in the legends and they're just remembered, like, as with their Aes Sedai, that, like, soldiers remember soldiers. I like that little bit.
Yeah, for sure. Which is valid. I mean, cannon fodder is so named for a reason, you know?
That's mean.
It is mean. It's terrible. Like, I blame the English, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Also, there is a third warder here we should mention. We were just been talking about Gawyn and sleep, but there is this other guy, Marlish, who's just like, oh yeah, he's here too. Like, he's not as good, he's not as epic, but he's here too.
Yeah, and I feel like he's only there so that, like, to make Gawyn more impressive, right? So that if Sleet were to take him on, Sleet would know he didn't have a chance later on in the chapter because he'd never beat him even with help.
Yeah, but you know, dude's just there for flavor. Poor Marlish. He doesn't get any water handed to him. Like, nobody cares about him. He's just sort of there.
I do feel like this is a bit of a mirror of Matt taking down Matt and Galad, or Matt taking down Gawyn and Galad at the same time.
A little bit, yeah.
Yeah, flip that around.
Gawyn's leveled up. Now he's the one taking on two other fighters who know how to work as a team and beating them both handily.
Exactly.
I like that. It's a way of showing how much Gawyn has progressed. That, like, he would give Matt a much tougher run for his money now.
Yeah.
Of course, Matt has also leveled up, but, you know, Matt from that book would have a much harder
Matt
time
from
now.
book 4
Yeah.
or whatever,
Weak,
book 3 would
sick
have. Yeah.
Matt, who just recovered, would have a harder
Would have a hard time with Gawyn.
with a literal sword master now.
Matt might be overpowered.
Slightly.
So what follows is a goldmine of fighting technique and sword forms.
Yeah, Sanderson is Sandersoning hard right here.
Yeah. I mean, some of them certainly are reused, right? I mean,
Oh,
I'm
sure,
familiar with,
sure.
yeah, but we've got cat dances on the wall, leopard's caress, folding the air, cat on hot sand, not to be confused with cat dances on the wall, not to be confused with cat crosses the courtyard either, of course, right? There's a lot of cat ones.
Not to be confused with cat on a hot tin roof. Not to be confused with Fiddler on the Roof. Am I doing it right? No? Okay.
If I was a rich man. Okay. Hummingbird kisses the honey rose.
We've seen that one so many times.
Yeah. Apple blossoms in the wind and shake dew from the branch, which is probably what you do after using the urinal.
I'll take your word for it.
So it's a stirring epic fight scene in which the sword forms stimulate my imagination and I enjoy reading it. But
Swing,
yeah,
swing, swing,
yeah.
swing, swing, swing.
See it on screen.
Yeah.
Beautiful sword form fight between between the three of them, which ends in Gawyn, of course, winning and the two warders being shocked.
Yeah, it's a three-way sword fight between shirtless men, and there's definitely nothing homoerotic about that.
Nothing homoerotic about a three-way.
Nope. Nothing at all.
Yeah,
They're just
nothing at all.
twisting their swords together and getting all sweaty.
I hate it when they get tangled up like that.
Yeah. Yeah. and then once they've, finished, they need a drink of water because they're tired.
Right. Yeah, well, you always have to recover afterwards. There's a refractory period.
Basically. Yeah, we are in fact 12. It's fine.
What did you think about this? He was said to have bested Lan Mandragoran twice out of 7 battles, right? So we've got someone back when Mandragoran had been known to spar with other warders. When do you think that was? Is that 20 years ago? When Moraine first bonded him? Is that 5 years ago? When was he last sparring with other people in the White Tower? Because I feel like they've been out of the tower for a while.
Well, he met her when she was out of the tower. So they had to have gone back and stayed in the tower for a period of 6 to 18 months, a handful of times over that 20-year period between when they bonded and when the book started. So maybe
Right.
the first couple of times that she came back to, do some research for a year. And was I need to go hardcore with the Browns and do a bunch of research before we go out on our next round of missions or whatever. And the first time they did that, he sparred with the warders, but then it was quickly apparent he was better than everyone, so the next time he didn't do it. But, it was a legendary season, the time that Lan Mandragoran came through, and, everyone got to meet him and spar, and it was cool. But then he was I hate being a celebrity, and refused to ever do it again. And also, Moraine only ever went back to the tower, literally a single-digit number of times in that entire, 20-year period.
Mm-hmm. She kind of, when she went to Adelius and Van Dien, right? But she went to them because going back to the tower was too dangerous.
Right. But she had gone back to the tower in prior years when she was younger.
Right.
Because she met Lan right out of the gate, right? She gets her shawl, she takes off, she meets Lan. That's when the 20-year clock starts. So she has 20 years in which to learn all of her like adult Aes Sedai mistakes, develop relationships with people, create feuds that mean she can't go back to the tower. Like all of that takes place over time. And presumably near the beginning, when they were both young and innocent, he thought it would be fun to just spar with the other guys. And then he was like, oh no, now I'm a celebrity. This is terrible. Because that's what Lan does, is he does anything at all, then everyone wants to follow him, and then he runs away. That he has commitment issues.
He was born a celebrity.
Literally. This is why we shouldn't have hereditary celebrity. In the comments, Light Blinded Fool said, Gawyn's favorite sword form is boar rushes into the china shop. That's good.
I literally was not, because we've been moving again, as I've said a million times, but sometimes trying to get around when you have boxes of stuff piled up and things not exactly in their place is difficult. And so Never literally was like, you're just like a boar in a china shop. Stop. Like they yelled at me yesterday. So, yeah, I get that. I get that. It's a little sympathy for Gawyn there. One thing I wanted to point out here, Gawyn, when he's sparring, the world contracted down, compressed like berries squeezed for their juice, into something smaller and easier to see from up close. Things seemed so simple when he was sparring. I think, again, this struggle that he's going through, if you think about it as a struggle against compulsion, he's able to kind of stop doing that when he's sparring, because he doesn't have to worry about who he's supporting and why. He's able to just sort of blank that out with the sparring, using like the oneness, that basically that idea of like focusing on the fighting helps fight the compulsion.
So kind of like the way I have to put on podcasts in order to psych myself up to do any housework. It's kind of like that. You got to like
exactly like
trick
that.
your brain into like just being able to like focus on one thing so that you can actually do something else. Mm-hmm. So you're saying ADHD is compulsion.
I'm saying ADHD, is a form of having your brain basically yanked in a place you don't want it to go. Exactly.
That actually tracks. But no, that's an interesting thought that like he's able to access a different way of looking at the world when he's doing the survival-based sparring sword form thing, that like that's a hack around, because it fits as an analogy for ADHD really well.
Then there's sort of this back and forth where they're all complimenting him and telling him he needs a Heron-marked blade, and they bring up him killing Hammer and how he had a Heron-marked blade, so Gawyn should be a blade master and should carry one, and he's like, no, I didn't take it off the dead because that's disrespectful. But like that's how you get a Heron-marked blade, right? Like, I don't know.
Well, if it had been a duel, like just a straight ahead duel, then he could have picked it up and it would have made sense. But like it was a battle, right? So the pacing was different.
Fair.
I guess.
Fair. I don't know.
Because like when Galad kills Valda, it's a duel, not a battle.
Yeah.
So, and then he doesn't even pick up the sword, right? Other guys pick up the sword and hand it to him and are like, this is yours now. Like, but Gawyn was in a battle. I think it's splitting hairs because he's a guilty little shit. I don't think that makes any sense at all. Yeah, maybe you wouldn't have picked up the blade, but like you should still own the fact that you killed a blade master in single combat.
Right.
Like denying that on a technicality is kind of a shit move.
Right. And again, if you feel like it wasn't you in control, that you weren't the one necessarily making the decision to fight that battle, you may not want to represent that you did that deed, right? Like, there might be part of you who thinks, oh, I didn't make that decision. I was compelled to do it, so I shouldn't carry the blade.
Maybe you just face the fact that you did shitty things and own it and purge your way through the pain instead of being a little shit and ruining everyone else's life and making your lack of ability to take care of yourself everyone else's problem.
Listen, if I can blame a woman for a man's problems, I'm going to do it, okay? You okay? Sorry about that. Trigger warning there. That was rough.
I'm very glad I haven't actually experienced that directly in my life. I just know it's a thing that happens. But Okay, fine. Me and my crew of Hitler Youth doesn't sound like single combat. Okay, fine, valid. But then Gawyn would have said people would have seen him do. Well, I guess everyone did see him do. I don't know. It was a battle. Robert Jordan wrote it. There's no clear sequence of events.
Yeah, we don't know how many people were also on Hammer's side.
Right, yeah. We actually don't know if it was single combat. I just know it was in the heat of battle.
Mm-hmm.
So, because Jordan didn't want to write anime sequences with clearly delineated timelines.
There's a little more about the younglings and how they're not going on raids because Bren's search parties are getting closer to their hiding spot, which, like, he's been doing these things where he's been sending out small party raids on a bigger force, right? And he's been going back to their hiding spot. I'm wondering why he's not moving the hiding spot if they're getting closer.
I think because he was ordered to stay there, and he obeys the Amerlin for reasons.
For compulsion reasons?
He obeys the Amerlin without question because he likes obeying orders. I think he just likes obeying orders.
Yeah, he's not compelled to obey anything.
And then Sleet asks Gawyn into a different three-way.
Jesus Christ.
He does. He literally does.
He totally does. Yeah, that's about as accurate. Yeah. This is definitely very much a three-way chapter. Yeah.
Yeah, he's like, Hattori and I have been monogamous, but we're interested in a third. And, I'm the only one who has to judge. And like your sword, forms.
Yes, it's quite flirty. It's quite flirty.
I think Sleet has a crush on Gawyn, too.
I do. Yeah, no, I mean, he just saw him kick some serious ass, right? Like, he's like, dude, I am the best one I know except for maybe Lan over there, right? Like, and you just kicked my ass and this other dude's ass who was no slouch.
Right. He's like, that's hot. You should join my marriage.
Game recognizes game. What can I say, right?
Yeah.
Like,
he's like, oh, you're in my league. You're actually in my league. This is a rare experience.
Between the two of us, do you know how many women we could get?
Right?
Other men? I don't know. Some it's just, and I don't know. It's a very interesting proposal.
It's direct. I like that.
Reaction.
It's a lot of communication for my Wheel of Time.
All right, Gawyn thought, wondering why he was being told this and all the build up to it. It's like, oh my God.
He does not realize Sleet's coming on to him.
Did you not see the upside down pineapples on your way in?
Right.
Like, come on.
Right.
Why are you telling me all these details about your sex life? I don't understand.
Yeah.
It's freaking funny. Interesting. What he says to her, my place is beside my sister. Then go.
Immediately betrays everything for a different woman. Like immediately. Like literally like half an hour later, he is betraying everything for not his sister.
Mm-hmm. It's just I don't understand why he doesn't. Sorry about the yelling into the microphone, but I don't understand why he doesn't go to her. Like, go to your sister. She needs you. Is the pattern like, you know what? No, Brigitte. We need Brigitte in that spot. So, Gawyn, you're just going to sit here and not lead the forces. Meanwhile, Brigitte's like, get me the fuck out of here.
Right? It's so weird how, like, he keeps saying out loud, I really care about Elaine. Even in his head, he's like, I care about Elaine. I care about Elaine. And then every other thought is like, actually, I care about Egwene. Also, I need to kill Rand. And it's like, why are you not thinking about your sister more often? Your sister's getting like a quarter of your attention, and you keep saying that she's supposed to be 100% of your attention. Like, what is happening? Inherent
internal conflict, because his loyalty is towards his sister, but the compulsion is to stay with the Amerlin. And he loves Egwene, clearly.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not going to argue that, right? Like, he clearly loves her. I just think there's some compulsion to be loyal to the Amerlin, and that once he finds out Egwene is the Amerlin, which happens in this chapter, a flip that he's able to go over, where he can then go obey her instead of Elida. Yeah, and then there's this quote from Sleet. You perch like a hawk, glancing this way and that, trying to decide whether to perch or to hunt. Again, I know it's like just all this internal conflict that he's feeling, and however you want to interpret that, right? Whether that's divided loyalties, being uncertain, not confident in himself to make that decision and stick with it, right? Or compulsion. However you want to go, right? I think is legit, but compulsion, I think, is the right answer.
Yeah, youth explains a lot, though.
Youth does explain a fair amount, yes.
I mean,
Yeah.
you're being compelled by your sheer lack of knowing what the hell you're doing.
But we've seen these characters grow up. Like, all the other characters
Have we seen
started out
Gawyn
as
grow up?
youths. Except Gawyn. Give me, let me finish my sentence. Gawyn has clearly been the exception to that. No doubt. That like we've seen like even Elaine has made fewer dumb decisions than she used to. Although God, there's some really dumb ones coming up. So that's hard to really put it past
She
her.
keeps escalating her situation, so her dumbassery
Right.
stays consummate with what she's trying to do. She never like plateaus on what she's trying to do.
I like Sleet's take on the conflict that they need to end it, even if people have to die, but ending it's worth it.
Yeah, I completely agree with him. It totally makes sense. Like, this has gone on way too long. Like, there's more death happening as a result of this shenanigans. Like, just kill the 3 people that need killed, and let's get through this, okay?
Right. Yep. Even if the leaders on both sides have to be killed.
Yeah, like, this needs to end.
Which is not acceptable to Gawyn.
Right.
Yeah.
But it needs to end. Someone needs to fucking end it.
Mm-hmm. Then Gawyn sort of speculates on Aes Sedai ranks, which we know is based on just pure power, which Sleet kind of seems to imply that he knows because he talks about how they only care about how big of a stick they carry, which seems to be like how much of the one power they can channel.
Yeah, he just said dick measuring contest in politer terms.
Yeah.
Which we've called
Right.
it for a long time.
Mm-hmm. And I think that it also implies that Hattori is very weak in the power, right? Because nobody cares what she thinks, right? Because she's weak in the power.
Right.
That's the implication.
Right, yeah. She's down there with Dagion on the bottom of the ranks. Not quite as low as Dagion, but like low.
Again, a little more about the relationship between Sleet and Hattori. Very, romantic, that like we both did what we had to do. And if after she was done doing what she had to do, if she knew I still needed help, she would have come for me. I have no doubt. But by the time she did what she had to do, I was fine. So we both just took care of ourselves. But if we couldn't have, we would have come for each other. Like, don't mistake that.
That trust is a really cool thing to see in their relationship. Like, again, I want to know more about this Aes Sedai that her warder has such faith in. That, like, oh no, she had her priorities in order and she would have gotten to me had I needed it. I want to know more about this Aes Sedai who would have done what she needed to do to get back out of the tower no matter what so she could go rescue her warder. Like, I want to know more about her. That's cool. Because I believe him. I don't think he's lying or delusional. I think he's right, and that is who she is, and we just didn't get to meet her properly in the series.
A little more of Gawyn ranting about Rand. He'd promised, and thinking about Gawyn, but him saying he'd promised her not to kill al'Thor, at least not until after Gawyn could prove for certain the Dragon Reborn had killed his mother. And again, that just, I think that hatred for the Dragon Reborn is just more of that, his inability to move past that, I think, is compelled into him.
It's ridiculous that he's like, why couldn't Egwene see that the man she'd grown up with had turned into a monster twisted by the one power?
Because he hasn't.
It's like, under what authority can you tell me that you know that the one power has made Rand twisted? Like, under what authority are you telling me that Rand needs to be put down for the good of the world when literally thousands of years of your culture says that you need him to fight the Dark One? Like, on whose authority are you upending all of that? What information do you have, my good bitch? It's so dumb.
And and you can't even be convinced that he didn't kill your mother when not only did he not kill your mother, nobody did.
Literally nobody did.
Like she's still alive.
If she had been killed, it was by the person that Rand then promptly killed. Like, Rand literally avenged your mother because he thought she was dead. Like, the whole reason Rand went to Andor and killed that guy was because he thought Morghese was dead. Like, he very specifically did it because he thought he was avenging your mother. So stop it. But no, listen to some random peddler with eighth-hand information. That sounds like a great plan.
And we know there's conflicting stories out there. He just picked one and chose to believe it.
Right. And, like, there are aspects of Rand that are very much twisted into monstrosity by the one power. Like, obviously, the Dark One compulsing his brain and making him go all Darthy is a problem. But Gawyn doesn't know any of that. What information does Gawyn have? Nothing. He has vibes.
And, like, even if the Aes Sedai were telling him shit, which they're not, he still wouldn't know anything, because they don't know anything. Mm-hmm. The Tower Aes Sedai are some of the most ignorant people right now on the continent.
Yeah. it's so, like, you want to be a soldier who follows orders, and also you want to think that 5 minutes of research makes you better than all of the medical research that's been done for, like, decades and decades. Like,
it does feel a little bit like Gawyn's like, Rand's the devil, do your research.
Very much so. Wake up, sheeple. Like, no, that weirdly formatted blog that you found is not actually going to make me disbelieve, like, multiple intergovernmental organizations who say that, like, clean water is important. Like, what are we doing?
Meanwhile, I'm trying to think. Anyway, trying to think of what Forsaken will be actually writing the blog, right? Like, which poor, it would have to be one of the men who are really, like, one of the resurrected dudes. What's his name?
Balthamel.
Yeah, Balthamel. I can see him
because he's the sleazy guy.
Yeah,
he's the sleazy one who lies about everything. So he would totally be the one who runs a conspiracy theory scene.
He's definitely got a podcast and a blog that Gawyn is following.
Yeah, lots of triangles and spooky music.
God. Sorry, I swear to God, modern culture is rotting my brain. I don't know what's going on. There's giant holes in it.
Unplug. Read a book.
Ugh, I'm trying.
All right, so Gawyn leaves the barn and he goes and walks over to see some Aes Sedai. And on the way, he displays a level of class consciousness that the Aes Sedai need to emulate. He talks about the washwomen that the Aes Sedai have recruited to sort of help with or the army has sort of recruited to help with existing. The pay was small for so much work, and Gawyn gave the women what little extra he could afford out of his own pocket, a gesture that had earned him laughter from Narenwen Sedai, but thanks from the village women. Gawyn might be a prince, and he might be a dumbass, but he's got more awareness of, like, real people's problems than the Aes Sedai. Like, the Aes Sedai are laughing at the concept that these poor people might need a little more from their wealthy hands. Meanwhile, Gawyn's like, you're paying them a pittance and they're poor. So, like, maybe tip the waitstaff. If you're not going to pay them a living wage, at least tip them. Maybe pay them a living wage, but, like, you know.
And this is, I think, why I'm trying to gum up some sympathy for Gawyn, right? Drum up, not gum up. He is a good person. He tries to do the right thing. And I really think he's being prevented from doing so.
Being kind to waitstaff is generally a raging green flag, right? Like, it's like when dogs are nice to someone. It's like you're probably not the worst if you're nice to waitstaff and dogs like you. You might have some issues, but, like, that's a really big green flag.
Man. And it's a good point that Rand's doing some crazy stuff. I just don't think Gawyn knows about any of the crazy stuff Rand is doing.
No, he totally doesn't.
He's basing it all on this rumor of, like, of his mother, right? Like, that's the problem. Is, like, he never gives any justification other than his mother.
Yeah.
And he's wrong about
It's
it. Right? Like,
vibes-based.
if he was like, God, he's attacking the Shan-Chan in this crazy fucking thing, and he's doing this other thing, and he's doing this other thing, I'd be like, okay, Gawyn, you got a point.
Right. If he was, like, following the campaigns and saying that was an insane strategy, is he two different people, then it would be like, okay, yeah, no, you're picking up that there's something weird going on with Rand. But no, all he does is say, well, some guy on the internet told me that there's, like, some stuff that's bad. Like, no! Cite your sources! What's happening? So Gawyn basically goes up to a secret meeting of Aes Sedai and is so honorable that instead of eavesdropping, he just knocks on the door and demands information. And this gets him nothing at all. But it shows that he's an honorable person, capital letters.
I have a question. Why the hell are they camped in the blackberry bushes? I couldn't figure it out. He's like, it's not the ideal place to camp. And then he just kind of says that. And, like, I'm like, but then why are you there?
Because it's in the middle of the village. For some reason, the village had a patch of blackberries just kind of growing in the middle of the area of the village, and it only got cut down recently for the younglings to camp on. I don't know why they had a blackberry patch in the middle of the village. That seemed weird.
Also, just, I feel like he's trying to say something about Gawyn picking that patch to just, like, because strategically it's in the center and that's better, but he ignores the discomfort and the fact that it's actually a terrible place to be. Like, I feel like that's talking about his politics, right? Like, he's picked the center, even though it's a really uncomfortable place to be.
Right. This is what happens when you just chase the Overton window without thinking about it, is you end up sleeping in a blackberry patch.
Sure. Yeah.
Make of that metaphor what you will. But centrism maybe doesn't always pay.
And then this whole thing about how he supports the Aes Sedai, but he doesn't trust them. Then why are you supporting them? Right? Like, it really seems to be this, compulsion problem that he has.
And he loves Egwene, but he hates Aes Sedai, and he hates the Amerlin, but he obeys Egwene. Like, okay, whatever.
It's that internal conflict that seems just a little too artificial to be non-magic based.
And then he finally comes around to the point of thinking that maybe that was a dumb decision. But it takes way too long. It's a bunch of paragraphs of whining. And then he's like, oh, maybe that snap decision in a moment of passion was like a bad call. Anyway.
And like, his reason for supporting Elida sucks, right? He supported Elida in the rebellion, not because he liked her. She'd always been cold during her years, right? No, he supported her because he disliked Siuan's treatment of his sister and Gawyn, even though they are choosing the other side. It's just, I remember him having that argument, and him just, he didn't even know what their treatment was. He didn't even know what was going on. He just knew he couldn't get in contact with them.
Yeah, that's not treatment of them. That's treatment of you.
Right.
You didn't like being shut out. You didn't like being kept in the dark. You felt like a whiny little bitch that needed to get mom's attention by screaming. Mm-hmm. Like, this is a you problem. This has nothing to do with your sister or Gawyn.
So Gawyn has made his decision in a moment of passion. It hadn't been the cool-headed act of loyalty his men assumed, right? And again, this is like, he's thinking back going, I don't remember, I have no logical reason why I made that decision. I just made it for I was almost like compelled to do it, But
again, this is what 19, 20-year-olds do.
Yeah, but like, I just don't like giving him that excuse. We don't give any of the other characters that excuse, even though they're the exact same age, if not younger. Right? Like, we did maybe back in the beginning, and we maybe gave Elaine a little more credit because she's even younger than that, right? But, like, we are past that point. He's the leader of a group, right?
No, I think we do give a lot of the characters that shit.
All right.
He just hasn't leveled up. Like, he's still who he was. His responsibilities have leveled up, but he's still a sheltered little 16-year-old, despite the fact that the timeline has moved on 2 years. Like, he hasn't leveled up at all. He's a dumbass. He's and also we're blaming him for a decision that was made like a year and a half ago on the timeline. Right. Like, he's still living with the consequences of that decision.
But he's continued to make that decision. He could leave at any time. Like, as is shown here, right? Like, he walks away. He could have walked away so many times. He could have joined another group. He could have gone back to Andor at any time.
That's the problem. He should have gone back to Andor. As soon as the coup happened, he should have hightailed it the hell to Andor.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. He should not be part of this. He has no loyalty to the Warders. I don't understand why he stays. And this is the thing that drives me nuts. This is why I've come up with this theory. Is like, I don't know why he stays. He has so many other places to be. He could be trying to find Egwene. He could be trying to find Rand and enact his revenge. He should be back in Andor, supporting his sister as soon as he finds out she's taken the throne, probably sooner when his mother goes missing, right? Like, to enact revenge. What keeps him there? What reason does he have to stay? And I can't come up with any in-world character motivation for him to stay other than just the lack of making a decision or some form of compulsion.
And lack of making a decision really doesn't fit because of the whole thing with him and Bryn later about like, oh, you're actually a commander, not a soldier. And that's like a different mindset. And you have to choose where to put your loyalty. So like he's in that conversation, which comes later, he gets framed as like the kind of person who does make choices in a way that most people don't. So like being a person who can't make choices is kind of off the table, which does kind of leave compulsion.
And I do think that loyalty, this specific loyalty, and I'll point out later, is tied to how he was compelled, right? There's a phrase that's in italics later on. Where is your loyalty, Gawyn Trakand? Someone is asking him that.
I thought it was him was asking him that. I thought he was asking himself.
Himself,
oh,
sure.
Okay,
but then,
gotcha.
Right. But this is sort of, again, in my theory, right? It really does feel like there's an external voice who's saying, where is your loyalty? Gawyn Dracand, and basically saying your loyalty is to the Amerlin seat.
I think it's like a kind of almost flashback, kind of.
Yeah, a kind of flashback to, like, that's him kind of breaking, kind of in the way that, like, Morghese remembers being told, I love you, and saying, wait, did I say that, or did he say that? Like, that sort of, you're tired, right? Wait, did I say I was tired, or did he say I was tired, right? There's this moment where I think Gawyn's saying, where is my loyalty? And he's like, did I say where my loyalty was, or did someone tell me where my loyalty was? And he repeats this phrase multiple times. Where's my loyalty? Where's your loyalty, Gawyn Dracand, right? Like,
while also simultaneously affirming that his loyalty has always been with Elaine, and it has always been with, it should always be with Elaine, and like he keeps saying that. That's always been his character. Right.
And yet he stays with Elaida and the White Tower and the younglings.
Yeah. He's a mess. So yeah, Gawyn doesn't get to be in the meeting, so he sort of sits there and pouts about it for 5 minutes, and then the meeting ends, and he gets to see the normal coterie of Aes Sedai come out, and also Katarine, who very much did not arrive by conventional means, and this shocks him and everyone else, because this is her arriving to say, here's how traveling works, make use of it while it's a surprise, etc., etc.
And she learned it from Elaida?
Yeah. Elaida's deciding to make that information a bigger, more public thing now. And also, she brings news about the rebellion and how the rebellion's going, and the fact the rebels' Amerlin has been captured. She's bringing all these updates, and Gawyn, catches some of the updates, and it breaks the mind virus into a new form, mutates the mind virus into a new form.
Yes. Question, do you think Katarine knew how to do a gateway before she was taught? Because, again, like, Alviar knew.
Yeah, definitely. The Black Aja High Command secret. Oh, yeah. She definitely knew. But I do believe that this is Elaida deciding that she wants traveling to be used by her forces and is sending Katarina out as a red. She's not there as a black sowing chaos.
I'm just betting Katarine picked that weave up real quick.
Oh, yeah.
If you know what I'm saying. If you know what I'm saying. Oh, yeah, this one. Never. Whoop. Wow, you did that like you've done it like 30 times. Just natural, I guess.
Oh, yeah. Beginner's luck,
Yeah. And so, there's these lines here. There's actually quite a long paragraph that Gawyn responds to, right? What Gawyn thought was shock. And so the question is, what in that paragraph exactly is he responding to with shock, right? Because it seems to be that he's responding to the fact that she says that Alviar girl, and this idea that, oh my God, Egwene Alviar is the captured Amerlin. But it could be a combination of there is another Amerlin in the Rebel Tower, and it is Egwene. That sort of helps him. It puts him in this state of shock, right? He realizes something's going on, and I think again, compulsion theory, that he's been fighting the compulsion, and now he realizes he can redirect it onto this target that he would rather follow.
So you think that it's not just the Egwene factor; it's the two Amerlin factor? I hadn't noticed or thought about that. Not a lot of textual evidence for it, but there's textual space for it. We can squint between the lines and fit that in.
And I am 100% telling you this. I am reaching for this theory. It is not in canon. It's not in the text. I am just don't feel that there's a lot of counter evidence to it. So why not? It's definitely my headcanon.
But no, I like that because I kind of assumed that everyone knew that there was two Amerlins. Like it isn't until you're bringing this theory up that I'm like, wait, did they not know that there was another like Hall Amerlin thing? Like, did they just think there was a gang of rebels with no leader?
Yes.
And like, yes. I never thought about that. Again, legends fading to myth, the way information attenuates over distance and time. Like, I never thought about how much it makes a difference to know that the rebellion, the opposition, has leadership versus doesn't have leadership. That's a really, even without compulsion, that is an important piece of information for everyone to know about or not. Interesting.
And if you're compelled to follow the Amerlin and suddenly you find out there's two of them, you have a choice to make. And if Alviar or if Masana was not particularly specific with her compulsion.
Yeah, all his thoughts are about concern for Egwene's well-being, though.
Yeah.
But I like it that maybe that is a little crack in the compulsion. Just like, but wait, now there's space that Gawyn's actual agency can try to wiggle back through.
Exactly. And that's why he gets to make this choice now to leave. So he confronts them, and he gets clarifying information. They're like, yes, it is Egwene Alvear. They reveal traveling to him, right, as this wondrous thing, and he's like, oh, part of him was barely listening. That's how Gawyn must be resupplying. But he's so shocked by the news of Egwene Alvear, he's barely thinking about the news of traveling.
Yeah. He's blinded by his obsession with the Amelin / Egwene.
And then this sort of and then you're thinking about Egwene over and over and over again, this idea that, like, if I remain loyal, I can't help Egwene, but I have to remain loyal. Where is your loyalty? Blah, 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 blah. And that, like, helps him break free of what I feel like is that compulsion a little bit, and helps him change loyalties. And so that's why I think that line, where is your loyalty, Gawyn Trakan, that's the moment. That's the moment where he sort of remembers the compulsion and chooses to violate it.
10 minutes later, found him in his tent. Like, once he makes that decision, he is gone. So fast.
He's gone. He's packing saddlebags. He's gone. Now, whether that's him breaking the compulsion or making a decision, right, that's the moment that he decides, my loyalty is not towards the younglings. It's not towards the White Tower. It's not towards Elida. It's towards Egwene, and I'm going to go to her.
Yep, it's decisive. And he lies to his friends to get out, quite happily. He just lies to them. It's fine. And then Sleet shows up, his new boy crush, and cannot be lied to, but also doesn't want to stop him. Like, that's the thing, is that the younglings would try to stop him. The younglings wouldn't get it. Sleet gets it and doesn't want to stop him. Sleet's like, nah, this seems like the best move for the war is to let this guy go and see if maybe he can rattle some shit loose somehow. Like, I genuinely think Sleet lets him go, not because he couldn't kill him, but because he's like, something's got to change. We got to change strategies. We have to try something else. Maybe letting this guy defect because of the news will do something.
You'd fight me, Gawyn said, finally doing up the saddle and lifting the bags into place, tying them on. Challenge snorted. The horse never did like carrying extra weight. You'd die if you thought it was necessary. If you attacked, even if I killed you, it would raise a ruckus. I'd never be able to explain why I killed a warder. You could stop me. True, Sleet said. Then why let me go? Gawyn said, rounding the gelding and taking the reins. He met those shadowed eyes and thought he caught the faintest hint of a smile on the lips beneath them. Perhaps I like to see men care, Sleet said. Perhaps I hope you find a way to help end this. Perhaps I am feeling lazy and sore with a bruised spirit from so many defeats. May you find what you seek, young Trakan. And with a rustle of the cloak, Sleet withdrew, fading into the darkness of oncoming night. Gawyn slung himself into the saddle. There was only one place he could think to go for help in rescuing Egwene. With the kick of the heels, he left Dorlin behind. That's the readout.
Yeah, I like Sleet's logic. I like his laconic attitude about it. He's great. I don't like Gawyn, but I really do like Sleet.
That is a popular opinion.
And I do think that there's a lot of evidence for headcanon for compulsion, but I don't know if I want to buy it.
That's totally fair. It's totally fair. I am not forcing it onto anybody. I am just telling you what I think.
But there is good textual space for it.
However, if you don't buy into it, you are dead to me, just so you know.
Yeah, well.
Yeah.
Good thing I'm actually immortal.
Oh, God damn it. I knew there was something going on. How old are you?
Yes.
So do you want to talk about Cadsuane and her security system?
Yeah, so next we have a really short chapter with very little in it. But we do get a cool sound system, which is fun. So we are going to now do chapter 14, A Box Opens, because we're going with real literal titles at this point. The last chapter was literally an offer for a threesome, and a departure for the rebel camp. Now we are doing a box opens, by which we mean literally the box that the security system is attached to that has the sad bracelets. Like, it is the most literal we could possibly be today. And our symbol is the moon and stars, Cadsuane hair ornaments. So this is one of the shadows sold, Sorelia said. The white-haired wise one circled around the prisoner, looking thoughtfully at Semirog. Of course, Cadsuane had not expected fear from one such as Sorelia. The Aiel woman was a rugged creature, like a statue that had weathered storm after storm, patient before the winds. Among the Aiel, this wise one was a particular specimen of strength. She had arrived at the manor house only recently, coming with those who had brought Althor a report from Bandar Ebon. Cadsuane had anticipated finding many things among the Aiel who followed Rand Althor. Fierce warriors, strange ways, honor and loyalty, inexperience with subtlety and politics. She had been right. One thing she had certainly not expected to find, however, was an equal. Certainly not in a wise one who could barely channel. And yet, oddly, that was how she regarded the leathery-faced Aiel woman. Not that she trusted Sorelia. The wise one had her own goals, and they might not completely coincide with Cadsuane's. However, she did find Sorelia capable, and there were blessed few people in the world these days who deserved that word. I love that attitude.
I mean, let's be honest here. Cadsuane has not found an equal in Sorelia. She's found a superior.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't think there's much argument there.
Cadsuane, like, wow, this person's my equal. I could really be, considered equal to this person. Meanwhile, Sorelia's like, no, they're Aes Sedai. She's maybe slightly better than the other ones. Still kind of crappy.
Yeah, no, that's definitely Sorelia. She's like, oh, wow, there's an Aes Sedai who I could actually give the time of day. Damn, impressive. Didn't think any of you were going to merit the time of day for me. But you, Cadsuane, you actually, I will, yeah, all right. Like, it's, yeah. Cadsuane's arrogance knows no bounds.
Also, the length of time that Sorelia has been successfully dealing with Rand and the amount of time that Cadsuane has successfully been not dealing with Rand.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah. I mean, Sorelia has at least the benefit of being one of many with the wise ones.
True. She got little enforcements. But I mean, what, you can't say Cadsuane doesn't have other Aes Sedai.
But Aes Sedai are bad at working together as a team. The wise ones actually understand the concept of teamwork.
Fair.
Like, Cadsuane just knows how to order people around. The wise ones actually know how to, like, diffuse responsibility and make Rand's ire not land on any one of them too badly.
So we're torturing Semirog.
Yeah, so we're doing what would be considered torture by, like, Geneva Convention standards, right? Like, sleep deprivation and physically uncomfortable postures are considered torture, but they're very mild by fantasy medieval standards. Fantasy medieval torture is, like, all the nasty shit in Game of Thrones and also everything the Catholic Church has ever done to its own people. But, like... the
breaking bones, the stretching,
right,
the joints,
fire,
the cutting,
all of that.
the fire.
But no, they're just keeping her awake for 2 days and keeping lights flashing in front of her eyes, which is bad, to be clear. This is not okay in a war crimes sense, in a torture sense legally. But, like, as far as what these people think of as torture in the book, as that whole delicate Aiel questioning conversation, like, this is not considered hardcore torture.
There also is a certain amount of unrealism around what you can ignore in your physical body in this series. Everything from ignoring the heat and the cold, to entering the void, to whatever Semirog is doing here, to whatever Gawyn's doing when being spanked, right? Like, this idea that you can, what the Aiel do when they laugh at pain, like the idea that you can ignore physical pain like that, to me, is at best extremely rare in extreme circumstances for only certain people. And they make it seem like a common everyday thing that you can just overcome. And damn it, Jordan, I suffered through a lot of pain because I thought I could do that.
Right. Yeah. Oh, Semirog just mastered some trick to stave off exhaustion. Like, I don't know that's how that works.
That's not, it does feel like he's sort of expanding on the trick to stave off heat and cold, to ignore heat and cold.
Which, like, sure, if we're going to have one unrealistic thing, why not have multiple unrealistic things bundled together? Like, why not? But yeah, I don't buy it as a real thing. But, It's a scene. It's a set piece, conversation piece for the women to circle around and talk about.
I enjoy Semirog's mocking of the Aiel.
Yeah, so once we actually do let Semirog participate in the scene, things get much more interesting. Like Cadsuane and Sorilea being arrogant about each other's purviews and whose fiefdom gets to be in charge of the questioning, whatever. That boring. Yeah. Once we get to Semirog being engaged with, that's interesting. And like Sorilea, obviously does the very, very cool, awesome line of disappointingly human.
Yes, which is the trick.
That's the critical insight. Disappointingly human.
And I don't like the way he writes it because, again, it goes back to spanking. And I'm like, okay, we really have to go back to spanking as the way to prove to her that she's human. It doesn't feel like it would be that effective, right? But I like the insight. I just don't necessarily like the way it's carried out in the end.
Yeah, no, the insight is good. It's the execution that it leads a strange place. And I don't think the Aiel would have been any better about it than Cadsuane, unfortunately. Their culture is definitely set up to go the spanking route as well.
I would have liked to see her do dishes until she broke.
Yeah, that would have been way better.
I think that would have been a really effective way of making her, feel human, of like having the soapy hands. And
no, Gideon hated having soapy fingers
absolutely.
With the wrinkled fingers, right? She fucking had a meltdown over her wrinkled fingers.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So that I feel like would be a better way or a more effective way than just, I feel like the reliance on spanking was not my favorite.
Oh my God. No, making her cook her own meals and wash her own dishes, that would have been the way to break her. You just have to eat beans that you made yourself. We could have still kept beans in the scene even.
You know what? You just, you have to survive in the city, Tarvalin, on minimum wage.
I have heard this as like, what? We don't need to like put like these rich politicians who are, fucking over our economy and our culture in jail. We don't need to do that. We just need to make them live in a 1-bedroom apartment on minimum wage working in, food service for the rest of their lives. And they're not allowed to make more than minimum wage or move into anything better.
You're going to give them a bedroom? Studio apartment,
whatever.
please.
Like, the concept of just like, no, you need to live like the people that you think are doing just fine and never be allowed to have upward mobility, just like them.
Right.
Instead of having your lifetime award fucking pension of $1 bazillion every 5 minutes.
So, all right, Semirog's fun statements. I mean, she just digs into the Aiel.
Oh, yeah.
She's like, you betrayed the way of the leaf and you suck.
You used to be such good little servants. She's so nasty. And then what's the line? How far do you think I would have to push before one of you would kill a blacksmith and dine on his flesh? Like, the way that she is mean and nasty and knowledgeable is just, it's delicious.
So apparently Jigsaw reborn. The Saw movies.
I am aware that they exist.
Do you want to play a game? That sort of, yeah.
I literally was hearing a reference about them on a podcast right before this recording started. Like, literally.
Apparently there's more of a plot line there than you'd think. Although I think at some point they do just make up random apprentices just to keep the storyline going. But, it's a whole thing about how he puts people in life-threatening situations for them to realize what a relief it is to be alive and, live better lives in the long run. That's why he tortures people.
So it's a good thing.
No, definitely not. But it reminds me of Semirog in a lot of ways, right? This just like, but I'm torturing people for the good of it.
I do feel like she would probably make that argument. Like, I'm helping you. Help me help you. And then, like, that's why people will, like, stay trained forever. And I could totally see her being that kind of person doing those monologues.
Because wasn't she talking about how like, I would heal them and I was the best healer around? It just, hurt them a little bit more than it necessarily needed to. And I feel like that was a price that they were willing to pay for the best healing around, and like the pain was totally unnecessary. It was just for her pleasure.
Yeah. Saw Mirage.
And then I think it's the debate between Sorilea and Cadsuane, where Sorilea says keeping her alive is like keeping a snapwood black lance as a pet, right? She's sort of bringing up the danger. And then Cadsuane responds with her, there'll be a fight at the last battle, and each weave we learn is one fewer they can use to surprise us. And sort of the way that echoes the debate around keeping Moghedien, right? And how, like, it was the same thing of, like, yes, this is an evil person, but we have the last battle to fight, and we are walking in ignorant against people who are 3,000 years old and have weaves from the Age of Legends. And everything we can learn from them is going to make a difference in this fight. And maybe one fighter is worth the risk, no matter how bad that fighter is.
And it's an interesting thing to see that reiterated with women who are more experienced and coming from a different place than our Supergirls. But I would ask if they learned a single thing from Semirhage. They don't get any weaves from her. They don't get any information from her. The argument worked with Moghedien because they actually did get stuff out of her. But at this point, with this Forsaken, I'm with Sorilea. Like, it might have made sense with Moghedien, maybe, but this is juggling with too many chainsaws.
Well, I mean, yes, but
they never get anything from her. They never demonstrate the ability to get anything from her.
If Moghedien had been freed by Shada Haran very early on and killed the two girls, we would have been like, oh, see, it didn't make any sense.
I think it's questionable if it did make sense for them to keep her. They didn't learn that much. They learned how to do compulsion, but Egwene's the one that figured out traveling. So, like, I question if keeping Moghedien alive was a good call, even the way it did turn out. So, yeah, I'm with Sorilea. Kill a bitch. Slit her throat and watch the blood drain onto the sand. Like, you gotta double, triple, quadruple tap Semirhage.
However, that wouldn't even really kill her. She'd just come back.
Yeah, well, that's why you gotta balefire her.
Yeah, Cadsuane is this, like, makes his point that Althor won't tell me or can't tell me how many Forsaken are dead. And it's a good point, because I think some of them are coming back. And I think Althor is realizing that. And he's like, yeah, I definitely killed a couple of them. I just don't know if they're still dead anymore.
Yeah, I feel like it's Semirhage. You just shouldn't risk it. You should just balefire her and just take her off the board.
I'm there with you, but
again, Sorilea is the superior to Cadsuane because she is correct in this case.
Yes, exactly. They just don't know what we know. That's all I'm saying.
And that is a real personal failure on their part. They should do better.
They should read these books.
Yeah, have they not read these books? Yeah, so Sorilea asks to see the thing. And on the way there, she thinks about controlling anger. When you could control a person's anger, you could control their other emotions as well. That was why she had focused so hard on teaching Althor to rein in his temper. She's so close and so far. Displaying temper is not the same thing as having a temper. Being able to control your outward display of temper means nothing about your internal state whatsoever. She's all about appearances and not about the reality. But she's so close. She's so close.
Well, it's okay. She's close enough that she stumbles on the answer by accident, which is get Tam involved.
Right. And she's right, that he's not ready for the last battle and all that. Like, she's so close. Yeah. She's so close. And it's like, even with this interaction with Semirhage, it's like, she's just fumbling in the dark. And it's like, it's right there. It's right there. You're so close. Semirhage ends up being more helpful than Cadsuane. Like, ultimately. It's very frustrating. But ultimately, she does decide that she's going to share information with Sorilea, share access to the sad bracelets with Sorilea, because Sorilea is the closest thing she's got to an ally that's competent. So yeah, they go into her room and we get to talk about her security system weave.
Mm-hmm. Which she's innovated, kind of. I mean, it's an inverted weave that will grab an intruder.
And also make a big loud noise and flashing lights.
I'm like, okay. I mean, I guess it's an alarm system that you put on. It's like alarm system and spray foam.
Basically, yeah. Yeah, it's like a net that drops down and like captures you,
And that's what you're using to protect the most valuable items you have? Okay.
Look, she's the smartest Aes Sedai ever, so anything she does should be considered to be the most profound innovation ever. Mm-hmm. I will say, it's a very silly trap, but I do like the fact that she actually innovates with the power. Like, I feel like
Yes,
this is
I do
very
too.
Sanderson fourth wall breaking, being like, I can't believe Robert Jordan made up 3 spells and just left it at that for all these books. Let me tell you what I've been thinking about in my writing career. I got all these cool innovations that we could do with the power.
God, it's better than J.K. Rowling, who thought of the Killing Curse and Disarming and used those 2 exclusively.
Truly, those books are so shallow.
Because, like, once you have a Killing Curse, what's the point of, like, throwing a fireball if you can just point at someone and tell them they're dead?
Yeah. Because it's a weagle. And the wall really matters. It's just so much about the world building of that entire world that just falls apart at the tiniest push.
It really is so bad
It's
writing.
like, it's fine for kids who haven't been exposed to good writing yet.
Right.
But it really is just like the trappings of a good story just sort of slapped together. Like, I got a lot out of it as a kid, but like, I have reread them as an adult, and it's like, wow, there's just so much more fluff and air instead of world building than I thought.
And like, the characters are fun. I like the character building, right? I care very much about Harry and Hermione and Ron as I'm reading the books. But to the plot holes and the stereotypes and the... okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Mm.
Yeah.
All right. So in the box, what's in the box? In the box, we have the male Cho'Dankal access key and the sad bracelets.
Female one melted during the cleansing.
Right.
Which is why all the people on Tremalking are dying, because they killed themselves.
Right. They're all dead now. And Sora Leah doesn't really care about the male Cho'Dankal because that's not relevant. But, Rand will retrieve it later, so...
And other than, like, not giving it to one of the male Forsaken, right? Like...
Which Shida Haran could have done.
Yeah, he just leaves it there. He doesn't steal it. He only steals the collar.
Yeah. He's like, Rand can have that. That'll be fine.
Which is weird because it appears to have been copied, right? That's the thing I think I missed on my first, like, couple reads-throughs. Because once he destroys this collar, we never really hear about the male Adom again. So I kind of thought this was the one, the original, the only. But no, he's saying that the Shan-Chan have copied it and have multiples. They have a bunch in a warehouse.
Yeah, because when the attack from Semirog got foiled initially, they found a whole bag full of the things. She was ready to take on multiple Ashaman if necessary.
Oh, okay.
So, yeah, this is one of those samples. I don't know what happens to all the other ones. Oh, no, she says in here that she sent the others to... I wanted to ask you about this...
Oh, fuck.
Yeah, some acquaintances of mine, Aes Sedai who have retired from the world, are testing them to try to discover their weaknesses. Those women also have Kalendor. So...
Yeah, they sure do.
There's other ones out there.
Yep. What the fuck, Sanderson? Who the fuck are these? Sorry. I did so much research this morning looking for who these 2 people are. Nothing. Found nothing. Zero evidence.
Oh, Adelius and Van Dien 2.0, but like never filled in.
Right. Like, I'm like, Adelius and Van Dien are dead. I'm sorry. Well, who are you sending these to? What older retired women? Did you just think, I bet he wrote Adelius and Van Dien in there, and then someone in the editing was like, they're dead. You can't use them. And he was like, fine, 2 old women.
Some women who have somehow decided not to engage all the way this deep into the plot. Like,
Right. I'm just, what the fuck? That line made me, and then, and frankly, Rand just shows up with Kalendor in, I think, chapter 51 or something like that. Like, he just has it again, right? There's no mention that I could find of him going to retrieve it, of Cadsuane going to retrieve it. Nothing like that. Nothing like that.
it just appears. Yeah. Plot holes.
Ooh, angry. Plot hole. Big plot hole.
I like that Sora Leah hates the sad bracelet so much that creation of these abominations alone should warrant a blood feud. It's a little rich coming from the Aiel, who are the only people who deal in like slavers, in being slavers at all. It's a little rich coming from them, but still, she's right that this kind of a controlling device should warrant a blood feud, and you should not make peace with them, no matter what. She's right. She's upset that Rand wants to make peace with them, and it's like, join the club, Sora Leah. We're all mad at Rand about that.
Yeah.
And Cadsuane says she has one on site, despite how dangerous it is, because she wants to mess around with it and test it and be all sciencey with it, and nothing could possibly go wrong because she's Cadsuane Bloody Melydron, and nothing like a weird hand of Satan could ever get in the way of her carefully laid plans. Sora Leah is doubtful, but allows it to pass. And that is bad for all of us, especially men.
And meanwhile, Rand's like, yeah, you can't use it on anybody, so you can't test it. So there's really no point in that. So we're going to keep this atom bomb that we can't test around for testing.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah.
We should keep two.
Great.
We should keep 2 different atom bombs in the same house, neither of which we can do anything effectively with. But we shouldn't get rid of them.
Definitely not.
And then, I got the readout. So
That's it.
Okay. One of the first things Cadsuane had done after capturing those female Adom was put one on and practice ways to escape from it. She'd done so under carefully controlled circumstances, of course, with women she trusted to help her escape. They'd eventually had to do that. Cadsuane had been able to discover no way out on her own. But if your enemy was planning to do something to you, you had to discover how to counter it, even if that meant leashing yourself. Althor couldn't see this. When she asked, he simply muttered about that bloody box and being beaten. "We have to do something about that man," Soralia said, meeting Cadsuane's eyes. "He has grown worse since we last met." "He has," Cadsuane said. "He's surprisingly accomplished at ignoring my training." "Then let us discuss," Soralia said, pulling over a stool. "A plan must be arranged, for the good of all." "For the good of all," Cadsuane agreed. "Althor himself, most of all." And I'm assuming by that they mean the plan to bring Tam, ultimately. That's what's the plan is going to be.
I believe it does. Yeah, I believe it does. Because there's the whole thing where she, sends someone on a quest to sends Min on a quest to find Perrin so that she can get Tam here.
Naive, but yeah.
Naive? Okay. That's right, yeah. But yeah, that's all I had for that chapter.
Yeah, that was a very short chapter. I'm glad we bundled it with the prior one because it definitely was not enough on its own.
No, and neither one really was.
No.
I made the first one much longer with my baseless speculation.
I mean, we got to get the runtime up somehow.
And people complain if we give them less than an hour. They really do.
Yeah. And next week, we will be doing a triple header because that's the state of affairs. So enjoy that next week, everyone. That'll be fun.
Listen, we're throwing back to the old school, getting through multiple chapters a day. Well, and these chapters are shorter, and there are more of them, right? So, this book has over 50 chapters. The last few books we've done have closer to 32, 35, 37, right? So
we got some chunky boys coming up.
With the same page count. Yeah. Instead of having POV switches, I feel like in this book they have chapter switches occasionally. So we're just bundling them together in a way that makes more sense to us. I want to talk a little bit about what's going on in my life because I don't remember how much I've told you guys because time has passed in weird leaps and fits and jumps for me in the last 2 months or so.
It's been 2 weeks since we last recorded. We did take a week break so that you could move. So timestamp everything to the chaos of moving.
Right. So basically, moving happened last week. Technically, a little more than almost 2 weeks ago. And so I've just today, this morning, finished probably moving the last thing out of the old apartment. It is now officially empty. I have someone coming to clean it because I just don't have the energy. I'm old. And it was relatively affordable. So I'm out of there. I'm moving into the new place. You are hearing me from the new, I'm going to put it in air quotes, studio, my new home that I own, which I'm very excited about, and I'm living in, has a walk-in closet in the office, and so I have turned that into a just recording space with a real desk out in the actual room. But that really makes it nice because then I can customize it and hopefully make the sound as good as I can, and just, have a different space for recording than for doing everything else. So, that, and it just gives me a lot of opportunities to use the office for other things, depending on how life changes.
No, congratulations on going into the closet. It's a great place for podcasters.
Thank you. It took me a lot of work. I've been out of the closet for a while. I was in the basement for a bit. That was unfinished, right. And so now here we are, in the closet again, which is, kind of appropriate for what's going on right now.
Nope. Don't you be complying in advance.
Oh,
I envy you having a walk-in closet though, because I just have the regular closet, and I am the recording setup is in the closet, but I am not in the closet. I am in the room pointed into the closet. I envy you having the entire.
I can't be in the chair and shut the door, but I can stand up, push the chair in, and open the door. So
you flip the hinges on it.
Yeah, and we have 2 walk-in closets, which is nice because then the closet in the bedroom can actually hold both of our wardrobes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, my other walk-in closet, the problem with it is it points directly at Brandon's workstation. Like it shares the thinnest interior wall. There's like the big walk-in closet in our bedroom, and then there's the other one in the little bedroom, which would be perfect, but it's like as close to his computer as I could possibly get. No, I can't do that. But yeah, I'm super glad for your move.
Now that I think about it, there were 2 unfinished basements that I recorded in. Anyway, moving on. Hey, I mean, if it's good enough for Michael Kramer and Kate Redding, a basement's good enough for me to record in, for sure.
It's true.
But yeah, now I'm up on the 3rd floor, which puts me, I'm inside with walls all around me, so it's very hard for noise to get in here. External noise just should be minimized. Aradia is going to let me know how bad the echo is on the recording, because I am in a small room.
You sent me that little test recording, and it sounded great. I didn't hear any room echo at all.
Good, and I hung up a few more blankets since then, so hopefully
Excellent.
We're in good shape. But yeah, we've got an entryway, we've got a garage, we have a kitchen with great appliances. I'm blown away by the quality of the appliances. They're 20 years old, and they're better than anything I've ever used. Gas fireplace, gas stove, gas heat, gas water. Yeah, everything's, as far as I can tell, I'm pretty excited to be in this place, right? Like I don't know what to tell everyone. How do you share the excitement of I'm in a home now, right? Like,
well, you were telling me earlier that you have appliances that work and have modern features, which is apparently an upgrade.
A huge upgrade.
Which is upsetting, but happy also.
Right, yeah. And space that's just a little bit bigger and private, right? We used to share this garage with this, old lady who kept leaving the door open so everyone had access to our stuff. Not having I went over to clean up today, and I had one piece of furniture out on the curb for 5 minutes while I was loading it into my car, and I went inside to grab something, and one of the neighbors comes by knocking to be like, "Whose is this? And can you get it off the curb?" And I'm just like, I'm so glad I'm out. I'm so glad I'm out from the constant harassment that has been living with an HOA.
Really happy for you that you're out and settling into a new place. That's,
yes. Yeah, it's still mostly, there's a fair amount of boxes to go through, but I was telling Aradia, everything that we need is unpacked, right? We are in that place where we can live in the house again. It's definitely not decorated, and there's still a lot of stuff that needs to be sorted through and gone through, but we are no longer on vacation in our own house, which it has been for the last, probably, for like a month, right? Because you start packing well before the move. And we went on our honeymoon in that period of time. And we got back from the honeymoon, and we both got so sick. I mean, we got the flu sick, right? The body aches, down for 2 weeks. And so we're trying to pack. We're super sick. Travis, the asshole, drops off a new puppy that is totally untrained. He's doing amazing now. He's being such a good boy. But yeah, it's no, I love Travis, I love this dog. He's such a good dog. But for that first week, he was not. He was definitely not. It was overwhelming. And I don't think I can't remember the last time I had that much coming at me in that short a period of time. Where they say right after, some other major life events, right? So
yeah, But you're settling down. You're settling down. The house is good. The dog is good.
Yep.
The flu is gone.
The flu's gone. The cat's healthy again. Oh my God, that was the other thing. We had to take the cat to the emergency room. The cats are fine. The cat is doing fantastic. You know,
did you figure out what was
complaining
wrong
about
with
not
him?
being fed in? He had a fever of unknown origin. So that we spent way too much money testing him, trying to figure out what was going on for them to come back with bupkis.
But he came through somehow anyway.
With antibiotics seemed to immediately help. Okay. So he got antibiotics. You know, who knows if he had a cut that we didn't find, or, you know, something, you know, I don't know. Cats get infected. He may have come in contact with another cat. He is an outdoor cat. I hear a lot of criticism for that because of this sort of thing, but he does not do well inside all day. So
domesticated cats are a conundrum. I love them, but they are a conundrum.
They are a conundrum. Also, new internet, right? So I'm in a new place with new internet. So if things get spotty, I noticed my upload speed is not very good. I'm working to fix that. Comcast gave me a high download speed and a low upload speed, and I need to balance those a little bit better if I'm going to be doing this. So if I do skip out a little bit, I apologize.
Yay for local recording.
Yeah, yay for local recording, because that doesn't matter if the internet skips.
As far as anything else, happy the holiday that marks the very beginning of spring, the lambing time. We are recording this on that day. Basically, we're halfway between solstice and equinox, right? It's like we're getting there. Equinox is only as far away as solstice now, so that's nice. Also it's February, so I'm starting up the support group again. I was off for 2 weeks because family stuff, but back to doing support group on Thursday for weirdos who like Wheel of Time.
Oh God! So, side note, I tipped my movers, right? Because they helped me move the furniture up the stairs. Like hard work. Gave them a good tip. I think. I don't know what a good tip is anymore. My coworker was like, "Oh yeah, when I had movers, I didn't tip him. They seemed offended." And I was like, "Yeah, I tipped because I'm not a fucking monster. There's not very many things I feel like you have to tip on, right? But like movers, man, that is the hardest thing anyone will ever do for you. Give them a tip."
Yeah, I have no idea what people are supposed to tip for or not. It seems like the most random fucking scattershot things don't get tipped for and do get tipped for. Like, I don't understand it. I think people should get paid better, and I shouldn't have to think about
totally.
it. I don't think I should have to think about it.
I mean, yes. That's the autism talking, but
yeah, for sure.
But I mean, legitimately, like, you know, these were 3 young guys who were like worked their ass off to get my shit up 2 flights of stairs. Like, I don't know. I'm sure I paid the company more than enough to pay them, but I'm sure they're not getting paid enough, so I tipped.
Yeah, and I mean, in this world, it's better to than not, for sure. But yeah, it's one of those social conventions I find very anxiety-inducing.
Oh, it was awful. I had like cash ready, and I had prepped for it and thought about it ahead of time. And I still, yeah, absolutely. And I still like kept fingering the cash in my pocket for the moment when he was going to ask so I could pull it out. And then it was just, it was awful. It was awful. I hate it. Absolutely hate it. But doesn't mean I'm not going to do it every time. You know, and also I've worked for tips for too long not to just like, I'm in the tipping culture, right? That's kind of how they get you, right? Is once you work for tips, it's really hard to justify not tipping, because in your head, anyone who didn't tip was a fucking bastard, right? Like, because that's what you live on. That's your lifestyle. That's your, you know, not that it's fair, but that is what prevents you from living on minimum wage and not surviving, you know, on almost no money. And so when people don't tip, it feels like they're taking money out of your pocket. Even though I understand that they're not legally required to do so, it's so hard to get out of that mentality, because whatever they don't tip is the money that you don't get.
I just wouldn't assume that movers and food service were the same. I just, like, would I have even thought of that? Like, I knew to tip my tattoo artists and my piercers. Like, I knew that. But again, my parents both were tattooed and pierced, so I knew that was the convention.
And again, I think the reason I knew to tip the movers is because when I was between jobs, I got a temp job as a mover, and I spent 2 days as a mover, and I got tips both times. And that was huge in my life, right? That was a huge moment when I actually, like, really needed the money, and the extra, you know, $50 or $100, I don't remember exactly what it ended up being, was like more money than I thought I was going to get, right? And then just, living in a place and then being in food service for so long where I got a portion of the tips, right? Like most nights, not everybody tipped, but on the people who didn't tip kind of average out with the people who over tipped. And so, 19 to 20% was pretty much what you expected to get on top of pay. And that got distributed up between everybody who worked there. And that made it so it was the people who worked there could continue to work there, right? Like, because no one could work food service on minimum wage if that's all they got. Because physically it's so hard on your body. It's very hard to do for full time. Anyway, never mind. I can go into it for hours.
I hate capitalism.
And capitalism's awful. Like,
I hate money.
The work that's being done is more than worthwhile for someone to be paid a living wage and do well, right? Like, there's more than enough money coming into restaurants to do that. But if restaurants jack their prices up to cover the living wage, they have a competitive disadvantage. And like people have done this experiment where they've gone to living wage and said, please do not tip, and people stop going because the prices are higher.
Like, literally, when I see a restaurant that does that, I make a point of going there more often because I fucking appreciate it so goddamn much. I fucking hate everyone and everything.
So it has to be a law that's passed universally in order for people to convert. And
you do know the history of tipping is entirely based in, like, slavery, right?
Absolutely, 100%. I mean, at this point, the history of everything in the United States is like, what I'm learning is anything that was that is a public good in any other country that we don't have was taken away because we didn't want to give it to everybody, because giving it to everybody would mean giving it to everybody.
Even the people that we did chattel slavery on.
Exactly.
Yeah. I hate everyone and everything. Can we please go back to the book?
Yes, please.
Thank you for listening to the Wheel of Time Spoilers podcast. Please rate and review us on your podcast app, and consider supporting us on Patreon for ad-free episodes. What Spoilers is a production of Fox and Raven Media. For more podcasts from Fox and Raven Media, visit our website at foxandravenmedia.com.